guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today is my September book haul. I thought that I did great for hauling books in September, although you may be able to see that this pile is really high. I didn't, but the majority of these books were not purchased, so that's gotta be something. If you're new here, I tend to have massive book hauls. I'm trying to do better because I'm running out of shelf space and my TBR is out of control. That's clearly not going as well as expected, but what can you do? So this month I brought in 16 new books, which is quite a lot, but some of these are either duplicates, some of them are books I've already read. We got some stuff here that doesn't necessarily go on the TBR, so that's at least something. So I'm just gonna dive right into it. I am gonna start as per usual with the books that were sent to me by publishers or by exciting companies. So the very first book that I actually wanted to talk to you guys about is a collaboration with a book subscription company. I was totally thrilled when Osusume Books reached out to me about receiving one of their parcels. I will leave a link to their website down below and you can go ahead and check them out, but basically they are a company that is a subscription service that will send you a book from a Japanese author in translation, translated into English every month. They have a variety of genres that you can choose from, and they also send you a note telling you why they picked that book, which is super cool. So I have been saying for ages that I want to read more translated books. I think that it's an amazing thing to support and to, support and read authors who are not writing in English. And I unfortunately only speak and read English, so I don't have a huge choice. I would love to read more translated authors. I have read one Murakami book. I don't really have much experience with Japanese books, but the lovely people at Osusume Books went ahead and chose a book for me. I think the parameters that I gave them were, I liked the one Murakami book that I read, and I tend to like sort of books that blur the lines between reality and fantasy, and I also love cats, obviously. So they sent me The Traveling Cat Chronicles, and this is by Hiro Arikama. This looks amazing. It's a book that I've heard so much about a couple years ago, I think, when it came out in English. I was seeing it everywhere and I wanted to buy it, and I somehow resisted until now. So first of all, this is like a lovely edition. It's the paperback edition, and they did indeed include, let me get it out, a little note as to why they picked this book. One of the iconic Japanese novel themes is cats. You may have heard of I Am a Cat by Soseki Natsume, and this book is written by a cat's perspective as well. This heartwarming story follows the journey of a young man and his beloved cat Nana to find a new owner, and it was also a journey to follow his childhood. The author is known as the best writer for light novels for adults. It's a genre in Japanese novels that are often sci-fi or adventure, loved by a young audience. But I think this book would be loved by everyone, even if you're not a cat lover. This book is translated into 16 languages. I cannot wait to read this. This is like a perfect choice for me, and I'm so excited about this. So thank you so much for sending this to me. This is not a sponsored video or anything. I would have said that at the beginning, so I don't get any money for this or anything like that, but they did give me a coupon code, which will be linked down below if you want to go ahead and give them a try. I have to say I was really impressed by them. So now I'm going to move on to, again, the books that I was sent by publishers this month. There are a fair few here. I was very fortunate in the month of September to receive quite a lot of books in the post. Some of these were books that I had kind of on my radar already. Some of them are books that I learned about via Twitter. There's a whole range here. Okay, I'm trying to balance this in my lap and it's going really poorly so far. So if you hear a loud crash, do not be alarmed. But these first two books I received from Glance. One of them is out now, and I've talked about it a million times, so I'll just show it off a little bit more. Might be the last time, might not be. And the other is coming out in the month of October. So The first one is A Little Hatred. I was sent a second copy of this book. I actually had the proof because I won it in a competition at Yelk. So obviously thrilled to have this again, and I did indeed read this month. I have a full review. I talk about it in my wrap-up. You can go ahead and check out more there. The second book that I got from Glance is very, very exciting indeed. This is my current read and it comes out on the 17th of October. This is Angel Mage by Garth Nix. So of course Garth Nix is an Australian author and he is hugely popular and much beloved for his Abhorsen series, which starts with Sabriel, which may be the thing that you know him from if his name sounds familiar. And this is his first, I believe, adult standalone fantasy novel, which is very exciting. So I'm actually about 50 pages into this book now and I am really enjoying it. It's one of those books that definitely throws you in immediately without a huge amount of explanation, but it's kind of coming together now and I am really enjoying this. This follows 4 characters. It's kind of like Three Musketeer inspired. So it follows these 4 characters, Simeon, Henri, Agnes, and Dorothea, and they are sort of drawn into the villain's evil plot against their will. So they feel this kind of kinship for each other and they are presumably going to go ahead and fight this villain whose name is Lilith. And we get presumably their 4 perspectives, but we also get Lilith's perspective, and she's the one who kind of starts out the book, so she's the one I know the best so far. But this magic system is based on kind of icons and angels. There's whole levels of angels. There's different things that you can do, different effects that angel mages have when they summon these angels and use their magic. It feels complicated so far, but again, it is kind of coming together. So I am really looking forward to this. Again, this is my current read. I have high hopes for this. I've got some really high expectations because I loved Sabriel when I read it earlier this year, and I think that this is going to be a really good one. So again, this comes out on the 18th of October in the UK from Glance. Next, I have 2 books from Hodder and Stoughton. The very first one I talked about in my wrap-up because unfortunately I did DNF this book. I didn't have a chance to email them and tell them to not worry about sending me a copy because it showed up the day after I DNF'd the book. But this is The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. This is a really highly anticipated release. I talk about this in my wrap-up video and I talk about why I DNF'd this. But basically, the story just didn't work for me. I didn't really get the characters. It wasn't what I wanted and what I expected, and I feel like from the marketing it was really clear-cut what I should expect, and I don't think I got that. So I went ahead and DNF'd this one. I really gave it a good go. I gave it a really good try. I went back to it multiple times, but unfortunately it just didn't work for me. Next book from Hodder is from Hodder Children's Books, and this is a really funny one because I requested this back in May, I think, and I just assumed that I wasn't going to be getting it. It came out in like June or July, and this showed up in the post, so I assumed that like someone saw my request in September and was like, oh shit, and like hit the button so that it would get sent. It's kind of silly and I laughed when I got this in the post, but I am really excited to read it because I bought a finished copy of it when I never received the ARC. This is The Sharp Edge of a Snowflake by Siv Sigmostadir. She is a YA author. I believe she's Icelandic, and this is a Icelandic kind of YA crime thriller. It looks so good and I'm really excited to read it, but it makes me laugh that this showed up like how many months? 3 months after I had requested it and long after it had come out. So I'm really happy that I have this because it reminds me that I want to read this, and I think that this coming fall season will be really, really a good time to pick up this book along with other thrillers and other crime books. So I'm very, very happy I've got this. Next up, I have a book from HarperTeen. This is Spell Hacker by M.K. England. So M.K. England came out with a book called The Disasters, which I actually have on my shelf. I had started it, I think, when I was in the middle of a reading slump and just desperately starting a ton of different things. Never finished it, but I really liked their humor and I really liked their writing style. So I went ahead and requested this when I had the chance, and this says it comes out on the 20th of January in the US. This is of course a US arc because the Harper 360 books and the HarperTeen books in the UK will come out a couple months later. So presumably this will be February or March in 2020. I will go ahead and put it on the screen if I remember. But this really captured my attention because so the tagline on it is "One last heist, famous last words." And I think it's like a super fun fantasy heist book, which I'm always here for. I'm super, super excited for this one. It takes place in a world in which magic was a sort of available natural resource until an earthquake released a magic plague, killing thousands and turning Maz, this magic, into a commodity that's tightly regulated. So we have Diz and her three best friends who are running a lucrative and highly illegal Maz siphoning gig on the side, and their next job is supposed to be their last heist ever, which I love one last job. It's one of my favorite tropes. And their plan literally blows up in their faces and they're driven to unravel a conspiracy with earth-shattering consequences. This sounds so fun. This sounds amazing. And I'm in a little bit of a YA fantasy slump. I haven't really read any YA fantasy books consistently probably since the spring. I've read a couple here and there, so like I read Sorcery of Thorns and I read some other ones I don't remember. But I feel like I've sort of burned out on the genre a little bit. This sounds amazing. This sounds like something that I can really, really get into and sink my teeth into. So I'm super pumped to read this. Again, this is HarperTeen in the US, Harper 360 in the UK, and it'll come out in either January or March, depending on where you live. I also received a copy of Wild Savage Stars by Christina Perez. This comes out from Imprint Books in the US and Macmillan in the UK, I believe. And this is actually a duplicate copy. I picked up a copy of this book at Yelk and then the publisher went ahead and sent me this. I have Sweet Black Waves, which is the first book in this trilogy, on my TBR. I'm super excited to read it. I gotta make the time to do it because I really want to read the sequel as well. This is a Tristan and Isolde retelling. It's apparently a really kind of lovely historical fiction fantasy series. I'm really looking forward to this. This book is out now. I also have a copy of Future of Another Timeline by Annalee Newitz. They are a science fiction author. I believe, what was their other book called? Autonomous, I think, was their other book. I never got the chance to read that. So I have had that on my radar for a long time and I have really wanted to read it for a long time, just never had the chance. I don't own a copy of it. So when I found out they were writing a new book, I got really, really excited, and this sounds amazing. So basically it's a time travel book and it's all about fighting for women's rights as well. So it says, in a world that's just a step away from our own, time travel is possible, but war is brewing. A secret group is trying to destroy women's rights. If they succeed, only a small elite will have the power to change the past, present, and future. This sounds amazing. This sounds so good. It comes out in October, I believe, on the 24th from Orbit Books here in the UK. I'm so pumped to read this. I haven't read sci-fi in a while and I love sci-fi so much. I've just been in such a fantasy mood lately. So I think that this is going to be an amazing read. It is definitely on my October TBR. Next book that I have from publishers comes from, oh goodness, this is from Farrago Books. I didn't realize that this is the second book in a series. I don't know if they are like directly connected or if they are companion novels. I'll have to find out before I read this, but it sounded really fun. It's another sci-fi one, but it's like a sci-fi humor book, and I feel like it's either going to be a big hit or possibly a miss for me. I'm very curious to find out. This is Battle Beyond the Dole Stars by Chris McCrudden. This is the second book in the Battlefield Suburbia series, I believe, and it just sounds really silly and fun. I think this has characters from the first book in it, so I don't want to read the back of this just in case like I accidentally read a mega spoiler or something like that. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and leave a link to this book in the description down below. If you're interested, you can definitely check it out. I'm going to do a little bit more research into this and find out if I can read this or if I have to read the first book first. I'll figure out what's going on. The last book that I have from publishers is one I'm very intrigued by. This is Nottingham by Nathan McCarrick. So this is it's a historical fiction, and I believe it's a historical fantasy book. It is basically a retelling of Robin Hood, which last month, you may remember, I had on my TBR a book called Brightfall, which was a sort of Robin Hood continuation. This is a retelling. I am very curious about this. I really enjoy the Robin Hood kind of story, and I think this is going to be really good. I've not heard of this before. I've not heard of this author before, and I thought it would be a really good one to take a chance on, so I went ahead and requested it. This book is out now, and it is out from Forge, which is an imprint of Tor, I believe. I've got this next little, not so little, stack of, oops, let's try that again. This stack of books, these 6 books are ones that I either bought for myself or I went ahead and acquired in some other way. What I mean by that is we have like a free bookshelf at work, so people can bring in books that they have read or that they want to unhaul or whatever, and people can just go ahead and take some. So I have unhauled a ton of books onto that shelf, I'm very pleased to say, so I don't feel bad about taking new books from it. So I picked up 2 things from that shelf. The first one being The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. This is a book that I'm very much looking forward to, but it is a massive chunky book. This is 860 some odd pages in the paperback. I am borrowing the hardcover from my parents, but I will give that back now that I have my own copy. I loved The Secret History, which is her other book. It's so good. I absolutely adore it. I'm completely obsessed with that book. And I know that people have really mixed feelings about The Goldfinch. I know that the film just came out. I don't know if it's any good. I don't know if it's terrible. I don't know anything about it really. I know so little about this book itself, and I want to keep it that way. Because I went into The Secret History knowing basically nothing about it, and it looks really good. I love her writing. I really love that other book, so I'll go ahead and give this one a try. I would love to know if you've read this, what you thought of it. And then I also picked up Shiver by Maggie Stiefvater. I'm so funny with Maggie Stiefvater because I now have the first book in both her series and her standalone book, All the Crooked Saints or whatever. I think you can probably like actually see it in frame right now. But I've never read her, and I don't know if I'm gonna like her or not, because I kind of don't think I will, but I can't stop like picking up her books, so I don't know. I think this is her first series. I think The Raven Boys is her second series, but it's about a girl named Grace who lives in a town where there are werewolves, basically. So I feel like this is definitely timestamps to a specific time in YA, but I'm still looking forward to it. We'll see. If I don't end up reading it, I'll just get rid of it. I'll put it back on the free bookshelf. So I feel like there's no real harm in taking this, even though I'm so weird about her books. Now moving on to the books that I actually bought. 2 of these I read in the month of September. Of course, we have already talked about A Little Hatred. This is the finished copy, and it's beautiful. It's so gorgeous. Look at this also. It's got lovely end papers as well. I love some good end papers. So this, super like gorgeous, beautiful, lovely. And then I also picked up a lovely hardcover edition of Dark Dawn. This is just the regular edition. So I read both of these in September. You can check out my September wrap up. Then I have my 2 final books for this month. The first one being The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. I totally blanked on this title for a second there. This is the first book in the Lightbringer series. I think there's a new one coming out soon. I'm super behind on this. I've never read any of his books. I hauled The Way of Shadows, the first book in his other series, the Night Angel series, a while back as well. I just apparently am buying first books in series and not reading them yet. I am really looking forward to this. I really want to read this. I kind of picked this up on a whim when I bought Dark Dawn because I was apparently in a book buying mood, but I am super curious about this. People seem to love this series. They really love his writing, so I'm very interested in finding out more for myself. And the last book that I have is 16 Ways to Defend a Walled City by KJ Parker. This is one of my favorite titles. It's just stuck in my head so much. It's such a good title. And this is going to be my book club's pick for November. I'm in a book club like in real life, not connected to this channel or anything. And we read fantasy books. And I have been introduced to some amazing books through that book club. We read the Divine Cities trilogy by Robert Jackson Bennett, which is one of my favorite things ever. We read V.E. Schwab's Shades of Magic series, which none of us liked. We have read, oh god, what else have we read? We've read a ton of stuff. We read Mistborn, like really, really good books. So I had the perfect opportunity to pick this up, which I've been eyeing for a long time. And basically, it takes place in a city in which a siege is about to happen. The city has very little time to prepare. There's no like food, there's no weaponry, nothing like that. And the person who's going to be able to save the city is a character named Oron, and he is an engineer, and he and this kind of like group of engineers who are better at building bridges than defending city walls are going to have to figure out a way to save everyone. This sounds awesome. I think this is going to be exactly my cup of tea. It's actually not particularly long either. It is 350 pages long, so I feel like this is going to be a really good kind of, not bite-sized fantasy, because 350 pages is hefty, but compared to some of the stuff I've been reading lately, this is going to be a really good, like, quick read. I probably won't read this in October. I need to find out when our meeting is going to be for this. I will probably put this on my November TBR instead. So those are the books that I hauled in September. I only bought 4 books this month. Awesome, really pleased with myself. I'm trying to buy fewer books because it's ridiculous to buy books when I've got like all this here. My TBR is currently standing, last time I checked, and I need to do a good like thorough check. Last time I checked, it was standing at about 456 books, which is slightly less than the month before, so at least that's something. But I really am trying to read down my TBR. One of these days I'll get that TBR video to you guys. I'll do it. I'll do the bookshelf tour. I'll do the TBR video. It's coming eventually, I swear. I would love to hear from you in the comments below if you have hauled any of these books, if you've read any of these books, if you bought anything or sent anything particularly great in the month of September. Definitely let me know. I post bookish content to this channel fairly frequently, so go ahead and hit subscribe, check back soon, and I will see you next time.